I have been angel investing for now 27 years, which is weird to say, but when I was 23, a friend of mine asked me to come and work with him, and I said, I'm sorry, man, I'm like helping my cousin build this e-commerce, this is, yeah, like very beginning of e-commerce, basically. By the way, interesting trivia, did Amazon start e-commerce? No, it was a company called NetMarket, and they beat Amazon by like a month or two. I think it was like April of 1994, and Troy Henikoff, by the way, I wanted Troy to give this. Troy and I have done, there's a full hour video of us doing this together. If you guys want to watch it, I can send that to you. I wanted him to do it, but unfortunately he's summering in New York, so I can't get him out. It's hard to travel out of there. So anyway, it wasn't Amazon, it was NetMarket. So I'm working at this e-commerce platform, and I said, maybe there's something else I can do. He goes, I need servers, and I gotta get a press release out. I need $5,000. I said, well, can I write your first check? He said, sure. So I literally wrote this guy's first check. He was a college friend, and I set the terms. I didn't even know what I was doing. I said, well, how about 1% for $5,000? So it was a $500,000 post-money valuation. Didn't know what that meant. Never heard of angels before. So that was a mistake. But over the next like 6 years or so, the next 15 years, I did about a dozen investments in like stuff that I was working in. And then really, once I got to Chicago, is when I really started doing angel investing much more seriously. And I've gotten better every year. The theme here is that you're gonna learn nonstop. So if you're curious and you enjoy learning new things, angel investing is super fun. If you don't want to learn new things, you should just leave now, because it's not going to be interesting. You're going to hate, you're going to lose. We're all going to lose our money. No, I'm kidding. That is definitely not the goal. I have to, like, I'm not independently wealthy. I do give away a lot of money for stuff, but it's got to come back at some point. So angel investing is not meant to be charity. Okay. Raise your hand if you don't know the difference between angel. This is fine. There are people, like, this is meant for angel curious to expert angels. So raise your hand if you don't know the difference between angel investing and venture capital. Okay, well, I'll say it very quickly. The biggest difference is that angels invest their own capital and VCs invest other people's money. Now they also they have GP commits where they put in their own money, but it's paired with a lot more money. So that's the biggest difference. The other difference is that angels are typically the first money in. Like there's sort of friends and family, which may come before angels, and there's kind of like a Venn diagram, like a chain, and really it's like angels are usually in the beginning, and then VCs can overlap a little bit, but typically they are later stage. And you'll also have some really high net worth individuals that will maybe write like Sam Altman or something, maybe will write like a $50 million check into whatever. Most people can't do that, so usually angels stick to the earlier rounds, like friends and family / pre-seed, seed, and then start to peter out. And VCs more take the line. Okay, this is really important, and if there's anything that I want you to really come away with, it's having a plan. Let me give you an example of what I love to hear. Somebody will say, "Oh, you do angel investing? I just invested in my friend's company. I put in $25,000." We're like, "Whoa, that's incredible! You plan on deploying $300,000 over the next 2 to 3 years into startups?" Like, what? So no, the answer is, did this go off? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. The reason I say that is because you want to have a portfolio of investments. You don't walk into Vegas and put all of your money that you have in savings and everything on green, right? Like 00. Don't do that. What you really need to do is say, how much money am I willing to budget? This is how I recommend starting up. And by the way, this is not financial advice. We don't want to get sued. But this is also in the packets that we gave. I give some like tips and suggestions. I also really recommend Jason Calacanis' book. It's kind of a polarizing guy. I don't know if you know who Jason Calacanis is. He's become a little bit more famous in the recent like Trump administration and all that kind of stuff. But it's a good book. And I've had a conversation with Jason. There was only one part that I disagreed with. He said, if you want to be serious about angel investing, you got to be in the Bay. I said, I'm sorry, my whole thesis is Chicago startups, so F you. And he was like, okay, yeah, I wrote that a long time ago. So So here's a plan that I suggest. Take a dollar amount that you're willing to lose, entirely lose. A nice round one, $25,000. Excuse me, over the next 2 to 3 year period of time. Divide that by 12. So if 25 grand divided by 2, that's about $2,000 in investment. You should make, over the next 2 to 3 years, 12 investments. People say 10, but I like a dozen. Somebody maybe should do like a baker's dozen, but I'm gonna stick with 12. And so that's about $8,000 per year. Again, you don't have to have that day one, you're budgeting. So it's about $8,000 in year 1, year 2, year 3, and you're only gonna invest 1 out of 10 companies. You really wanna do as best you can. I know it's hard, but you wanna do as best you can of sticking to that. So it's about deal flow. You wanna sign up for lots of different places where you can look at companies. You don't even necessarily have to have the ability to invest in all those companies, but you want to, every company you look at, it's better if you do because you want it to be real, but you're trying to train yourself. As Mark said, we're looking for patterns. And part of that's going to be hard because in the early days, you're not going to have access to the founder. So as much as you can, like Chicago Early, you're going to hear from Brian and Jeff later, there was Chicago Early Ventures, they record their pitches with the founders and let you watch it. So as much contact as you can get with the founders, the better, because we're really in the early stages, there's very little to evaluate in terms of the company. You've heard of like quants. I'm a qual. I evaluate people. In the very early stages, there is no quant. There is only qualitative. And the more that you can learn about the founders, the better. So it's gonna be a little bit harder for very early because you can't write $2,000 or $1,000 checks or sub $5,000, they really even sub $10,000 checks and get access to the founder. Even if you're writing $10,000 checks, you're not gonna get a lot of their time. In fact, you don't wanna take a lot of their time because it's not fair. Because you got a 10% chance or less of actually saying yes if we're saying at least invest in 1 out of 10. Okay, so now you've invested in a dozen companies after 3 years. How many, somebody raise your hand and say, how many have you total looked at if you've invested in 10? 12, excuse me.
120.
120, that's awesome, right? Now you're starting to build that muscle. The muscle is looking at lots of companies. Now, hopefully, after 2 to 3 years, all your companies are still in business, but expect some to be out of business, because that happens, right? They're gonna die. You wanna maintain a list of, we call it the anti-list, so the ones that you didn't invest in, because you wanna say, where did I make a mistake? Where was I wrong? What was the difference in, why did I pass on this one and they did well? It might be like, the founder is a dick, and like, I don't wanna invest in the founder. And like, anyway, we'll get into that more later, but that's really important. It's gonna help you think about this. So now you've got a plan, and you can reevaluate that plan after you execute on it, so 2 to 3 years. And this is like a very Mark, where's Mark?
Mary.
Oh, of course. This is a very Mark term, he even said, then we gotta have patience. You're planting, you can, and as angels, we help the most in those couple early years, and we pass the baton. It's like a relay. You pass the baton to other investors, and they really take the reins. So it's really then about patience. How do you build a plan? So I talked about like the very structural. Why are you doing this? One of the first things that I heard from Troy, I was in a boot camp for angels at 1871 in like, God, I don't know, 16 or so, 2016, maybe 2015. And Troy made a great comment. So, why are you doing this? You could go make money in lots of other ways. Like, have a why. I'm curious. I want to pay it forward. I'm a founder, and so many people have helped me, and I want to try to help them. I'm curious about tech. Whatever the answer is, but like make sure you understand what your why is, because it's going to inform a lot of stuff, and that's really, really important. Be consistent after you have your plan, after you have your what am I looking for, your initial thesis. And the reason I said take a number, I said 25, so 24,000 divided by 12 is 2,000 a check. In the beginning, do not pick winners. Not say, oh, I'm gonna put 1,000 in this one, but I wanna put 10 in this one. Make it as easy as possible, make them binary. I'm either in or I'm out. In the very beginning, make it in or out. So it just simplifies your life. Later, and I can't even tell you, I wish I would have known this much earlier. Thankfully, I was like practical. I didn't really have big checks to write in the early days. But it's really important. I know founders that have had big exits that have written $150,000, $250,000 checks before they knew what they were doing and then got burned. And we're trying to pick, like, oh, I'll put 10 in this one, 200 in this one. And like the ones that they bet really big on went out of business, and those angels are gone. So that's bad. So that's why we want to stick to that plan and write small checks, as small as you can in the early days. And now we can just build a portfolio. That's like literally the last part. It's like you have your why, you put together your plan, be consistent, and build that portfolio. We talk about selection criteria. Mark touched on it a little bit. I am the only angel. I'd love to not be the only angel, by the way, so please steal this from me. But as far as I know, I am the only investor on planet Earth whose first and most important criteria that they use to invest in startups. By the way, let me take a step back. Before I meet with a founder, there's like binary checkbox stuff. Do I believe this is a real problem? Yes, no. Do I think it's a big enough market? Yes, no. Do I think that the hypothesis, their potential solution to solve that problem, makes sense? Yes, no. If I can't get past those, there's no reason to waste their time with a meeting, and I'm not going to waste my time. So that's like kind of just the initial. Once I get past that, all I'm doing is evaluating the founders. That's it. Because everything, I guarantee, is going to change. The market, Trump gets elected, woo, we got tariffs, like all sorts of stuff happens that you can't anticipate. COVID happens. So we're betting on the jockey, not the horse. And I have 4 criteria in ranked order, and I am the only, as I said, I'm aware of that it like literally states this. My first of 4 criteria is giver. Raise your hand if you have not heard of Adam Grant's book, Give and Take, or have not read it. Get on your phone right now and download the damn book. It is my most important book recommendation I make. It is, I think, intuitive in all of us subconsciously, but when you read it, it becomes conscious, it becomes a lens, and I think it's really important. Thank you, Mark, for answering the question that I asked the right way. It's important for angels to be givers. It is important for everybody to be a giver. Now, everybody isn't a giver. We have to recognize that. So my whole philosophy in life is surround yourself with givers, avoid takers like the plague, and you navigate the matchers. And that's really important. So life is too short. I don't have to be doing this. I need to make money, but I don't have to be doing this. So if I'm going to invest in people, I want to invest in givers. One other important point, I think this has never been more important than it is now, I've been saying this for a long time, it is incumbent upon us as capital allocators to invest in the founders who are building the future that we all want to live in. And I choose to back givers because they're going to make the world a better place, in my opinion. Second thing is brilliant. There's 2 ways I call brilliant. You talk to somebody, you're clearly brilliant. I'll give an example. We have a fellowship program that we are very nascent, just starting, and we just welcomed our 2nd fellow. He's a rising sophomore in high school. His first day of high school, sophomore year is today. Pretty ridiculous. He's brilliant. He is off the charts brilliant. So that's one half. The other half is just has an insight that other people don't have. Something that is like, oh wow, like you have maybe a family business, whatever it is, like you've got something that other people don't normally see. The third, and really second and third are pretty much tied, is gritty, scrappy, able to do a lot with a little. Mark talked about that. The fourth, and this is where I say the rubber hits the road, and I very specifically word these 3 words together in this order. Problem, founder, fit. You hear like founder market fit and all this stuff. I don't buy that. It's problem, founder, fit, because everything starts with the problem. The founder has to personally experience the problem. The founder has to deeply hate the problem. The founder can't sleep until this effing problem is dead. And importantly, the founder has to be agnostic to how they kill the problem. Have you seen Zombieland? Doesn't matter if you use a banjo or a shotgun or a machete. You just got to kill the effing zombie, right? This is important because I've seen founders who fall in love with their own idea. They drink their own Kool-Aid. That is important. Why is that important, Mark?
You got to love the customer. I mean, if you're talking about, I've seen founders who are in it because they want to make money, or they're in it, they don't really, truly understand the customer, understand the product. I don't know if that's what you're doing.
Well, yes, and if they don't hate the problem and know that they need to listen to their customers, they're not going to listen to their customers. The problem is they're going to just say, no, I know better. And I'm sorry, also to Mark's stories, Steve Jobs is dead, and he's the only one who truly knew what we needed better than us. And that's a shame, because Steve was a visionary. By the way, I don't know that I would have invested in him, because I'm not sure that he's a giver. That's maybe another...
Well, he's not a giver.
Yeah, I mean, so, like, is that ridiculous to say, like, probably the most valuable company on planet Earth, and I probably wouldn't have invested as an angel? But it's true. You got to stay true to what is your North Star? And Giver is my North Star, so that's kind of a crazy thing. But anyway, so that's what I look for. You got to decide for yourself how you're going to select founders.
Wait,
And
can I say one thing about that?
Please.
So, if we're investing, we're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
We're going to make deals that we shouldn't have made. We're going to pass on deals that we shouldn't have passed on. We're going to make mistakes. And one of the things is, like you said, would I have invested in Steve Jobs because he's not a giver? That's okay. That's your investment business. And you got to be comfortable with that.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was going to end on this point. Mark teed it up perfectly. Is that the cool thing about being an angel is there are no rules. It's like poetry for investing, right? You just break the rules. You can say, my thesis is I'm going to invest in people that have pants like Zora's got on. I am not going to have a lot of deal. Yeah, I'm not going to have a lot of deal flow because I don't have a lot of people that I've seen. Those are exceptional pants. But that is okay because it is your capital. If Mark went to his IC, his investment committee, and said, we're gonna change our investment strategy, they would have problems with that. But as an angel, you can have any strategy you want. And that is, again, one of the real fun parts about angel investing. By the way, I don't know if you guys have noticed, but this should all be fun. Right? Like, this is Christmas for me. I've never had a summit before. I love angel. I mean, Mark knows how much I love this. So I hope all of you are starting to realize that this is a fun thing. This shouldn't be like stuffy sitting in a cubicle analyzing spreadsheets. Like, I'm not good with spreadsheets, but I'm pretty good with people. And if you're good with people, angel investing is something that you can really be, I think, good at. I'm not even going to bother with the summary because I want to give a couple questions. So we have time for maybe like 2 or 3. So Randy, we'll start with you.
Chris, first of all, Give and Take, thank you. He recommended that book to me, and I would highly recommend it.
Oh my God! Oh wait!
I read it right away.
You reminded me, and this is important. I'm going to have a conversation with Adam at some point because we have a million mutual connections, and I'm going to tell Adam with very strong conviction, I have sold more of your book than anybody else on planet Earth, other than you.
Commission.
Yes. So go ahead.
So, but question, you mentioned, go back to your example of $25,000 and investing $2,000. Yep. I mean, I've been at this for 5 years. I have not seen being able to make a lot of angel investments at $2,000. So how do you tell the audience, how do you do that?
Oh, you just teed up our afternoon. If you guys look at the agenda, we have a whole panel that talks about this. And there are, so Lofty is not going to be your deal source in the early days. My goal is a decade from now, or faster if you guys get there, that we can all co-invest. I'm not taking carry or anything. I'm like literally just, your deals, please invest in some. By the way, if anybody needs a deal, I have a company that is literally, they've got a matching deal with a VC and they need to close by the end of the week. That's not a joke. I'm serious. If anybody wants to look at a deal and throw in like 10K, it's an awesome deal. I'm an executive advisor in that. Come and see me after. But that is the big plan. So today, if you want to write small $1,000, $2,000 checks, we enable part of that with our Lofty founders. That is one of our perks that we give. And we actually give that to our partners in XIRs and other people. But you have to be inside of that Lofty family. For everybody else, there's Chicago Early. They take $2,000 minimum checks. There is Josephine Collective. These are Chicago groups that are investing in Chicago, not exclusively, but Chicago founders. So you can actually get involved with them. You can also use AngelList. All these tips, by the way, are in that packet. It's at the back of the packet. And as we find more, if you discover other sources, let me know. There's also you don't even have to be an accredited investor. You can invest in what are called crowdfunding equity campaign sites that are like Republic, which is listed in there. I don't think I have WeFunder. There's a couple others, but if you want to write angel checks, you can write as low as $100 and you don't have to be accredited. Again, you're not going to get as much access though. So you just, as you're accredited, you're going to get a little bit more access because like Josephine Collective and Chicago Really, they do require you to be, because of the vehicles that they use. Let me see it. Anybody? Okay? The back.
Can you talk a little bit about terms and how to think about, I know it's a big topic and I don't mean to be the last question about a huge topic, but
Yep.
I've heard some stuff like, it can be a note, we got this, we have this and this and this.
Okay.
How do you evaluate that quickly to your point when you're doing the?
That's a great question. Wow. Not stand under you get echo there. It's a great question. Really, when you're working at the earliest stage, you're going to see two different vehicles. You're going to see safes, you're going to see convertible notes. And it used to be everything was a convertible note before priced rounds. Priced rounds are when it's much more complicated. We're not going to touch that. That's where Mark lives mostly, in the price rounds. And that's as the company matures, they go later. But it used to be all convertible notes. And then there were these very smart people. I actually met them at YC. I'm sure you met them as well. A British couple, I forgot their names. But in 2015, I went out to YC to do AngelConf. And that's what they call it, AngelConf, not conference, because it's YC. They have cool branding. And I met the people who started the SAFE. The reason that they wanted to move to SAFEs is because they're founder friendly. It's not putting debt onto the balance sheet. It's literally, SAFE stands for Simple Agreement for Future Equity. And these are open source. You can go as a founder onto YC's website and you can download templates. So you're really just going to see these two instruments and they're basically the same. From an investor standpoint, it's effectively the same. I hear some investors, in the early stages, a head scratcher. I'm going to look at Mark and see if he agrees. Why would you care if it's a note at the pre-seed? Because if the company goes out of business, the only reason you would really care, hopefully you're not because of the interest rate, but you get preferential in a liquidation. There's nothing to liquidate in the early stage. Is there another? Give me Mark. What's the other reason that you would want it?
Well,
at the very early.
Here's a reason to be concerned. So if the safe or the note is less than $1 million, okay, no problem.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, in the last few years, what we noticed is that it was harder to raise capital, and that those safes started to add up. And so then it became, $2 million or $3 million because they just put on another layer of safe on top of that. The challenge, it's like playing a chess game and you're looking 2 or 3 steps ahead. The challenge is, what is the implied valuation if there's a conversion? And the new investor, they want all the money to go into the business, right? And when they want as much equity as possible. So when those notes convert, it's actually dilutive to the new investor, or it could potentially be. And so one of the things I have found over time is if it's a relatively small amount of money, no problem. But as they tend to layer and get on top of one another and becomes larger, it actually makes raising another round harder, not easier.
Oh no, I agree. I'm saying the difference between a preference for a note versus a safe.
Oh.
Yeah, right. So
it's just the amount of money.
Right, no, we're in agreement. And so this happens. I have heard from VCs or founders that say we have a VC investor, whoever it is, it could be an angel, says no, it has to be a note, and I think that's kind of ridiculous. So anyway, to answer the question, there's really 2 things that you need to worry about. And one has an A and a B. If there's something I'm missing, Mark, you can jump in with this. But there's two real, when somebody says, what are the deal terms? There's a discount and there's a cap. And there's a pre-money cap or a post-money cap on a safe. I don't think there's such thing as a post-money cap on a note. It's all pre, I'm pretty sure it has to be a pre. So, Jonathan, anyway. So typically we're gonna see safes. So what I like to see is always a discount. And it should be 20%. And I've coached lots of founders, in fact, even with companies that I passed on, to say, oh, this is your first round, why are you putting a discount? They only have a cap. And they'll say, well, because our lawyers said, and I go, don't ever take advice from lawyers on how to actually structure the important terms. Of course, leverage them for all the T's and C's nobody reads, but the most important thing is to do right by your early investors. They're taking the most risk, and if your next round ends up being below the cap, then your earliest investors are not getting the benefit of the risk that they had. And so, the discount, for those that don't understand what that is, if, let's say, you have, we'll take an easy example. Let's say there's a $10 million post-money cap and a 20% discount. You, as a investor, get whichever is better for you at the next round, so the next price round. And Mark, if I'm wrong with anything, you comment me hard, okay? The next round, we're all excited, it's at 20 million post. Woohoo! We go at the cap, we convert it to 10 million. If it goes below the cap, like at 8 million, then the 20% kicks in. So we still get a little bit of a benefit over investors at the next round. And so I would use this as like what is the founder's thought process? Don't immediately think that they don't care about you. It's usually they've never done this before. It's usually their lawyer who said, no, pick one because like that's the right thing. I think that's bullshit. Do you have a
No, I agree.
Okay, yeah, because again, this goes into like if I have that conversation with them, I go, don't you want to support your? Imagine a scenario where you actually price the next round below your cap, because a cap is not a valuation. It only turns into a cap at the next when you actually have a real valuation when you price the company. So when I talk to the founders, I say, don't you want to do right by your early founders? They have the most risk. They have much more risk than the people that are coming in after you. And if they say no, then like run. But if they go yeah, then like try to help them think through that. Please, Jeff.
One potential counter argument.
Yeah.
It tends to be nowadays, at least personally, I'm seeing more safes with no cap, with no discounts, and I think it's just a trend of simplicity. So there is an argument you made that it's the simplest note, and potentially you could see a safe at a lower cap compared to a safe with a discount at a higher cap, and so the valuation difference could make up that discount we're talking about. So like just in general, I'm seeing more.
I think
safes no discount.
I think that there's two important points on this. One, if it's like a $4 million, I've invested as low as $500,000. That was my first, I'll take a bow for getting $500,000 post money. That's you should never invest at $500,000, by the way. Like that's predatory. But I've invested like in actual safes as low as a 2 cap. That's kind of crazy, but it happens. Actually, not long ago, there were only a couple checks into a 1 million cap. There's actually a founder in this room that knows about this one, but at that, like, if the next round is below $1 million and there's something very wrong, so a discount is irrelevant. But if it's like starting to get over 7, 8, like 10, for sure, in my opinion, like that's a rule for me. Also, I will not invest in an uncapped note. And there are companies that I passed on that like I really love this founder, but it is a rule because I got burned on an uncapped note. So that can go on forever if there isn't a price round for a long time. And so a 20% discount on like something that ends up being like 6 years later or 7 years later is like, are you kidding me? So I always want to see a minimum of a cap. And if it gets to like over a 7 or 8, then I expect that there should be a discount as well. Because it's possible, especially in this market, where you could actually have a price round below
And
that.
should the note convert in an exit?
What do you mean?
Well,
I'm going to let you answer this because this feels like a trick question.
so if you put your money in a note does it automatically convert in an exit? Or do you just get your note paid back with an interest rate?
Well, that's a term in it, so,
Right.
yeah, so that's really
So
important.
not all notes, some notes are just simply notes that don't convert. in an
I'm
exit.
sorry, you're right. I was thinking more in the context of safes, which is a standard that
Right.
converts before, so, but that's a really good point. You have to pay attention to the terms in the deals. Safes are like, a good question to ask also, is this a standard safe? If there's something non-standard, like, then when you're investing a couple $1,000s in a deal, it's hard to say, like, have a lawyer look at it. I don't really have lawyers look at the stuff. I trust the founders, and if I'm asking them a question, like for a $10,000 check from me, I know it sounds ridiculous, that's not a very big investment. And if I find out later that they burned me, that's like $10,000, that's well spent.